speaker script out?
No, she has it on Google.
Okay, it's on the Google share. Okay.
Yes, and it's just been updated today.
Okay. I'll pull it down then.
Okay. Yeah, we had Dr. Sana want to pull 2 courses, so I contacted Dale Rice to find out exactly the procedure that needed to happen so I could add it to the script. So are you going to continue doing the polls?
Yeah, I will do the polls. So so make me host and I'll continue doing that.
Okay. Yeah, Speaker Hammond wasn't sure if you would still be doing.
Well, she never asked, so I presumed I was.
Yeah, she just said as secretary, she thought you'd have other duties. And
actually, I think this is one of the things the secretary should be doing, is the one that actually doing all this. It's part of the reason I ran.
Okay.
Just because I was doing it and I had no official.
Yeah.
I'm just, somebody needed to do it and we hadn't switched it. So we'll see how everything goes in the hybrid meetings, what happens, but.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody's joined us yet. We will see.
I hope she didn't cause a lot of confusion because I had already sent out the registration link, and then she sent out a calendar invite that said it would be sent out a week in advance, and it had already been sent out.
Well, I hope there's one person. So.
Okay, I already got one person that said that they can't find the link. I figured this was going to happen.
You might just want to send the link out to everybody again now.
I'm going to right now. Okay, I just sent it out to all the senators again.
Well, that's good. I'll be back.
Okay.
Mic test 1, 2.
Hello, friends.
Howdy, howdy. Well, hello and welcome to the first meeting of the 41st session of the Faculty Senate of Texas A&M University. If you need a reminder of the Zoom features used in our Senate meetings, the Zoom tip sheet can be found on our website at the top of the current agenda page. At this time, please make sure your microphone is muted. Secretary Klein will be monitoring the raised hands function. He will verbally identify you, then you can unmute your mic and ask your question. In fairness to others, please limit yourself to one question at a time. Secretary Klein will also be monitoring the chat to convey messages as necessary, so please send any chat questions directly to him. We are using the registration function of Zoom to track attendance. Most visitors today have been asked to view the meeting via our live stream, but our guests and administrators who may be asked to answer questions are joining via Zoom. Visitors wishing to address the Senate may make this request by sending a chat message to Secretary Klein or by using the raise hands function. Finally, if a senator wishes to offer a motion during today's meeting, please raise your hand at the appropriate time and ask to be recognized. Joining us today as guest speaker is Dr. Tong, Interim Associate Provost and Dean for the Graduate and Professional School. She will be accompanied by Dr. Julia Harlan, Associate Dean, and Dr. Stephen Castor, IT Business Analyst 3, to answer any questions you may have after the presentation. Dr. Tong, the floor is yours.
And I do not see her on yet, Tracy. I just sent Amy Fritcher to grab her. So apologies for us not being prepared right at 3 o'clock. So I leave it to you on how you want to proceed.
Do we have Keith Hancock online?
Yes.
Okay, do we mind if we jump ahead a little bit in the program and come back to you all, Julie?
Sure, I did. Oh, Dr. Tong is on now.
Oh,
So-
okay, then let's proceed as normal.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize for running late.
No worries. You are just introduced and you're on, so.
Awesome, wonderful. All right, let me share my screen here. Can you all see a slide with the arcs? All right, perfect.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Speaker Hammond, for this opportunity for us to share with our Faculty Senate a new degree completion system for our graduate professional students. So we'd like to share with you a little bit of kind of the background of where we are and also kind of the next steps. So this new degree completion system for graduate professional students is called Academic Requirements Completion System, or ARCS. And a little bit background of why another new system, for our faculty and for our students. So as you may recall, right up before the pandemic, and so all of the approval process for our graduate students after a degree plan was approved in DPSS was all completed in paper. And this approval process may include, prelim, proposal, final exam, copyright forms, etc. So students had to print out the forms and to gather signatures and to deliver to our office or to scan in PDF. And so that just created a lot of manual work. And I remember reminding my students to make multiple copies just in case those papers got lost during transition, and you probably have similar experiences. Then the pandemic hit and we had to quickly pivot to the DocuSign, but there are also limitations to the DocuSign. So for example, after a student initiates a request in DocuSign, then they're not able to track the status. And oftentimes, they will have to reach out to their chairs or to you, to their committee members or their grad advisors, who will then need to locate those information, or they will have to contact the next person in the routing. So this just leads to further delay in the approval process, and students are still not clear on all the requirements that are needed for a timely graduation. So the grad school has been working with the EIS under the technology service for almost 3 years now to develop a singular centralized platform for our graduate and professional students that will have a roadmap of all the degree requirements, all the way from degree plan to graduation. And also a platform where students can submit documents and track the status of the approval process, as well as the departments. So the original plan is, as we continue developing, building, and testing, is to fully develop the ARC system and fully test it for implementation. Now, because the DocuSign is being phased out and fully phased out in the spring and in the fall semester, and instead of having to transition to another system for a certain period of time, we have decided to modify our timeline to launch the first phase of ARCs this fall. So here's the kind of the modified timeline for the launching of our first phase of ARCs that will go live fall of 2023, so this fall semester, and that will apply to all the master's and the doctoral students who already have an approved degree plan in DPSS. And as we continue building and developing the degree plan into ARCs, which will be also a very comprehensive undertaking, at a later time, the ARCs will also replace DPSS. That will, at that point, it will be applicable to all graduate and professional students. So this is kind of our overview of where we came from and where we are, sort of kind of this timeline in terms of the fall implementation of phase 1, and then also at a later time, phase 2. So we've done some of the groundwork. Wanted to share with you what we've done, and we definitely would welcome feedback from our faculty. Is we've been working with multiple departments as a pilot. The pilot began since the spring of 2022, and we began, I believe, with 11 departments, and we've continued to add more departments. And now the most current as of June 2023 is we have 25 departments in our system. And that's a very good representation of the different colleges and schools across the campus. And currently there are over 1,200 doctoral students who are actively using the system. And we've also tested the milestones for the master students. So as we speak this week, we are adding those list of master students from the 25 departments into the system. So it's ready for them to use. We've also developed the training guides for the different groups of users, including our students, our faculty members, and our pre-committee, which are typically the departmental approvers, and also for our department heads. And those training guides are also available in the email notification from ARCs, and also available in the ARC system, and as well as the ARC's website that we are developing, where we will upload all the information for the different groups of users, our students, our faculty, our committee, and the departments. We have also been working with our departments and our faculty who are missing the faculty training because the ARC system is living in the Howdy system. And so that requires proper training and EIS acknowledgement for them to have access to ARCs. So if you have received communications from our office, we appreciate your cooperation in completing the FERPA training and the EIS acknowledgement. It won't take more than, I believe, 20 minutes to comply with these trainings, and then we'll provide full access for you to access the ARC system. During our pilot, we've been seeking input from our faculty, our users, our students to make continuous improvements. And based on this valuable feedback, we have been able to make some improvements in terms of making the system user-friendly, easy to navigate for our users. And we'll plan to seek another round of feedback based on the current 25 departments, especially those newly joined departments in the summer, to gain their feedback as we continue making improvements. And we definitely welcome our faculty and our students as we continue implementing, launching, and making the continuous improvement for our users. We're also looking at the schedule to host some ARCS office hours on Zoom in case there are any questions or there's any technical obstacles from our users having access to ARCS. So this is sort of like our pilot work and some of the grunt work to get us ready for full implementation. And we feel pretty confident that we are in a very good position for full implementation after the summer, the continued pilot. And here's the contact information of the ARCs. It's gradarcs@tamu.edu, and whenever there's any questions or recommendations or suggestions, please feel free to contact us and let us know. And we have dedicated staff checking these emails to make sure that there's no delay due to accessibility of the ARC system. And then let's make sure that I advance the slide. So what ARCS looks like, once a student submits a request for prelim, proposal, any final exam, then as a committee member, faculty will receive an email, and the email would look like this. It comes from the grad school, and then there's the embedded link to the ARCS. It will take you directly to the ARCS dashboard, and or you can log in to Howdy, and where you can find the ARCS icon. It lists the student's information. And then again, this is the ARCS contact information, the email and the phone number. And also there's the guide on how to access ARCS. Again, you can also log on to Howdy. And once you log on to Howdy, if your department is in the pilot right now, or starting in the fall, we'll have the full implementation. When you log in, if you're a server on the committee, then you will see this ARCS icon on your Howdy dashboard. You click on the ARCS, and then here is the list of the requests that are pending your review or you have already completed the review. And so you can review all these requests in the dashboard. And another positive side is also with the list of the requests, and particularly for some of our colleagues, who are very generous of their time and serve on multiple committees, right? And, you want to see where you are in terms of your approval, or where the students' progress had been, or for the departments and for the pre-committees, if they have a list of other students' requests, they will be able to rapidly identify any students who are missing any approvals, and they will be able to follow up, and they can actually export into a document where they have a list of students and their approval process, where they are in terms of their degree completion. And then if you click on one of those requests, and it will list the student information, their curriculum, and then this is the roadmap that I kind of mentioned in the beginning, from degree plan all the way to graduation. So this is an example for a doctoral student, but depending on the student classification and then the degree programs they are in, the roadmap might look a little bit different in terms of the number of milestones. Master's students will have fewer milestones, non-thesis will have fewer milestones, and professional students will also look slightly different. So this is kind of an example of what the ARCS request would look like. And then the guide is embedded in the text box, where faculty, students, or departmental committees, they will be able to click on the guide, and they will have a very comprehensive walkthrough on how you can navigate through the process. Where you can review students' documents. If the student submits a proposal or a final dissertation approval, then you will be able to review, and then you'll be able to either approve the request or send it back to the student. And so there are different steps that you can take to complete your review. And again, you can review any documentation uploaded to the system. And then for the students, once they log into the ARCS, they will be able to see where the signature is pending, and so the students can may directly contact the committee member or the department or the grad school. So that also helps alleviate some of these anxieties of where it is, has it been approved, whether there's any issue, and then so that will also help with a timely transition among these different milestones, and to ensure a timely graduation, and also a very positive experience for our students and for our faculty. So the goal, again, for this system is to provide this easy navigation system for all users, and to help our students to accomplish their goal. This is just a very brief presentation, and we're happy to take any questions, or if your department is one of the pilots, we hope your experience have been positive, but we are very open and appreciative of your recommendation and as we continue making improvements. So thank you.
Senator Taylor has his hand raised with a question.
Yes, thank you. My question, you made a comment, Dean, Dean Tong, apologize, about faculty taking training on FERPA and EIS. Would that training be deployed through TrainTrack that would link to other trainings we would take as a matter of employment, or would that be a unique training that would come from a different platform, or could it be synced or linked to our train tracking so that through Interfolio, faculty could demonstrate that they are always as up to date as possible on all required training for the purposes of their job?
Thank you for your question, Senator Taylor. Yes, so it is through the TrainTrack, and particularly for faculty who are employed with the Texas A&M system. Some of the challenges that we have encountered are those faculty members who are outside the university, and they are not necessarily, in the system to have the assigned TrainTrack. So now, and I see Dr. Castor, who is the lead of our ARCS project from the grad school, and he's been working very diligently with these external faculty members to make sure that they also have access to, and there's a certain temporary password that EIS generates on a regular basis for those external members to log in and to complete their training. But for faculty who are with A&M system, that it's in a TrainTrack, and so it's not a separate system that they have to complete. And most of our faculty have already completed the training. I think based on our current numbers, we have over 5,000 graduate faculty in our system, and I think we're now down to less than 100, I believe. I don't want to misspeak the numbers. Dr. Castor, is that accurate or close to?
Yeah, that's close enough. Yeah.
Thank you.
Senator McGill has a question.
Yeah, I just wondered, you've mentioned departments all along, and I'm on the faculty of genetics and plant whatever. So I just wondered, are you dealing with the faculties? Is that exactly the same way? Their degree granting faculties?
Yes, for all faculty members who are serving on the committees, they will have the same access to the ARC system. Does that answer your question, or I may have missed it? All right, thank you.
So at this point, I don't see any other questions.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Tong. Next up, Keith Hancock, Director of Benefits Services, is here today to discuss open enrollment. A link to his presentation has been added to the meeting agenda. Keith, the floor is yours.
Thank you. As she said, my name's Keith Hancock. I'm the Director of Benefits Services here at Texas A&M. Also joined by Martha Alexander, who's through this wall, who's our Assistant Director, and she'll be able to answer any questions. The two of us together surely can meet your needs today. And again, just thank you for this opportunity. So we'll share my screen. Okay. So we just wanted to go today where it's a very high level overview. Shouldn't take a long time, but we answer any questions that you may have about open enrollment this year. There we went one too far. There we go. So the biggest news, if you have not heard already, is we are going to a 3-week open enrollment period this year. Historically, it's been the entire month of July. So we just want to make sure that those folks that are really anxious to go in and make these changes and then try to start it right at the beginning of the month, understand it won't be open until the 10th. It does run through the end of July, so we don't have surprises there. But the open enrollment period is from July 10th through the 31st. And this is the only window that we have to make adjustments should anybody want to make them. We are limited on what we can do, if anything, once we get past July 31st. So we're just taking every opportunity to make sure people understand it's the 10th through the 31st. It is a passive enrollment. So if you're happy with what you have, you're really not intending to make any changes. You don't have to do anything unless you have a flexible spending account, whether that's a health account or a dependent daycare account. You must renew those every single year. And those are governed by the IRS and don't roll over. Therefore, you do have to renew those every single year in order to continue those should you want to do so. Also, it is the 12th of July, so we have 18 days left to make sure that everyone has completed their two-step wellness program so that you can get that $30 credit every month for you and your spouse if you're carrying both. You can go beyond the June 30th deadline. June 30th deadline is there so that if you have not yet completed your physical examination, there is plenty of time to make sure that all that flows through not only the insurance company, but gets to MyEVI, post to your account so that credit's issued there at the beginning of the year, September 1st. If you go past that, go ahead and get done what you need to get done. We will look at that and we will apply that retroactively. But the key is you cannot go past August 31st, and everything really needs to be done here in the next 18 days to make sure everything goes smoothly and there's no issues. Open enrollment's also a really good time to look at your beneficiaries, your addresses, your phone numbers, emergency contact, those things you don't think about. Have you moved? Has somebody else moved? And make sure that all that's up to date, because the last thing you want is something happening and then we're reaching out in the wrong place or can't find you or a loved one in the time of need. So just be sure and check that out. So what is new? Premium costs will remain unchanged, exactly the same for dental, vision, life, long-term disability. Everything that we have is optional. Those are going to be the same price. Health insurance is still pending, but we did get word that we should know that by, I'm going to say, the end of the week, but definitely within the next 10 days, we should know what those premiums are going to be. We're not anticipating they will go up, but it is possible. The cost of insurance continues to go up year after year after year. So as soon as those are released, we will put a notice out and make sure that it's on our website, updated, and that you can find it. Those flex accounts you need to re-enroll in have actually gone up. So if you're using them, your healthcare flexible spending account is now $3,050. So that's gone up about $300. So a little bit extra money that you can save pre-tax to use on healthcare. Flexible accounts for dependent care is unchanged. So that's $5,000 per household. So it depends on how you want to carry. So if you and your spouse are both carrying insurance, you can do $2,500 a piece, or one of you can have $5,000, but that has remained the same. We are excited. You can see me in the corner with my fingers crossed to offer fertility benefits for the first time as an option for people. We were very hopeful that we'd be able to do that last year. The system office had some issues trying to get all this hammered out, lined out, but we absolutely intend for that to be one of the options that you have through your insurance now is fertility benefits. There will be tiered co-payments and deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums and other things that are new for emergency room visits. These are really intended to drive people when they need emergency room to go to the emergency room. When you just need to go and you can't get into your doctor, use urgent care, because those will remain the same. But it will be a little bit more expensive to use the emergency room going forward. Our new wellness premium, so your two-step, is going to move from MyEVI to WebMD. You don't have to worry about that right now. I just want everyone to be aware when you see that coming in the new year. It's going to look different. It's going to be on a different website. But everything will move over. You'll still have the same type access to where it's a one-stop shop. If you've been in there and used it, you can go anywhere that you want from the inside that MyEVI. WebMD works pretty much the exact same way. The global pandemic emergency has ended. It ended on May 11th, 2023. So what does that really mean? Well, COVID-19 obviously did not go away, just the emergency status of it did. So that means that testing and vaccines are no longer a zero cost item, but they are insured. They're just now subject to co-pays and any other type of fees that they might have for lab work, just as any other type of testing or pardon me, or medical treatment may cost. For our retirees who are over 65 plus, they're going to actually move from 65 plus into a Advantage plan, which is part of a group. So it's not the normal thing that you would see on TV, but it works similar. It will be a group for Texas A&M University and Texas A&M University system. I don't think that really applies to anybody here, but if you're getting close and thinking about retirement, that is something you need to know and be aware of. So we're making that available to you guys now. We are having our benefits fair on Wednesday, July the 12th at the ILCB. It will be on the entire concourse when you walk in. It's from 8 to 5, come and go. We'll try to run kind of a mirror image in the morning as the afternoon. So as your schedule permits, you'll be able to come and visit with our representatives and actually listen to presentations from our vendors as they talk about our benefits, and walk around the outside and talk to other people who, every benefit that we have and every benefit that we offer, no matter how large, how small, we hope to have there. We're still building that out and trying to get more and more vendors to come, but we expect that to be a really good day. If you happen to live in the South College Station area or up in North Bryan, we actually we're combining with Ag and Engineering and TTI and TXA, you name it, to do a kind of a Bryan College Station wide event. So on the 11th down at TTI, at TTI on the Rellis campus, they'll be having an event. And then on Thursday the 13th in the morning down south at the TEACS offices, there'll also be an event. All this is on our website. You can go there and look at all this, and much more information than what you're seeing on this flyer. But we hope to see a good number of people there on the 12th. So in conclusion, we can't extend past the July 31st deadline. So make sure everybody's doing this in Workday. So this is the problem we tend to have from time to time, is people go in and they do something, but they don't actually complete the event in Workday. It's got to be done by the 31st. If there's any questions, any problems, please reach out to me or anyone on my team. I'll just go there. benefits@tamu.edu, and there's our phone number. Please call us day, night, email us. We're here ready to answer any questions, provide any assistance that anybody may need to make sure that we get through this open enrollment period smoothly and that your needs are met. With that, any questions that may be there, or Martha, if there's anything that that I left out, please speak.
So Keith, before I open it up to people with their hands raised, there have been a few questions in the chat. Not all of them were directed to everybody. So the first question was, maybe you can talk about COVID-19 vaccines relative to flu vaccines. What's the differential cost?
They're treated the same. So if it's anything preventative, it just rolls out from protection under that federal emergency status into regular medicine. And I'm oversimplifying, but anything that's preventative is free of charge. There is no copay for that. You may have to pay for the office visit, but the vaccine itself. If you just run down to the Walgreens, that's where it becomes a bit more complex.
So the second question, I'm sure this individual's not the only one, but her specific question was, they cannot get a medical appointment until after September 1st. Is that going to be a problem, and what should people do about that? And I see lots of people's heads going up and down about that as well.
That happens quite often. And we're all creatures of habit, and we wait till the last minute, and we've got 9,000 benefits plus, and we're almost 10,000 benefits eligible people here in Bryan College Station alone, all trying to do this at the same time with regular illnesses. So the key is, when did you do it, right? So if it's between September 1st and August 31st, that's in a fiscal year. So if they're telling you they can't do it until after September 1st, that's going to count for next year, not this one. Does that help?
It
may not be good news, but
yeah, that's probably not good news. So basically what you're saying, if you can't get an appointment by September 1st, then you're not going to get your $30 per month. Release.
Correct. However, reach out to us.
Okay.
We'll see what we can do to work with that.
Thank you. So the next question is, can retirees have traditional Medicare and the new Advantage plan?
Yes. Martha started to say no. Okay, yeah.
No, when we go to this new Advantage plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield, of course, they're looking at a January 1 start date of that coverage. You can only have one or the other. It's either our plan or a Medicare Advantage plan directly through Medicare.
Oh.
So only one plan will be allowed. That's how it currently is as well. You can't have our A&M Blue Cross Blue Shield 65 plus plan and also have a Medicare Advantage plan.
Correct, but you would still have traditional Medicare Parts A and B.
Correct.
Yes.
I think the question was the latter question.
Okay.
And one more in the chat, and then I'll open it up to people. Is there a reason why the registration process occurs in the summer when many faculty are actually not employed by the university? I'm sure you get this one a lot, but I'll ask it.
Every year. So our policy year aligns with our fiscal year. So the way that open enrollment is done everywhere is generally 60 to 90 days before the start of the policy year. You allow people a period of time to enroll called open enrollment, blah, blah, blah. That just happens to our fiscal year and our policy year both start on September 1st. Could we move it to May? Yes. But that's so far in advance that there's not really been an outcry for that. But there's nothing magic about the month of July. It just happens to be the right timing in terms of when the new policy year starts. And it's a problem. That's why, thank you so much for having us here when it's hard to get a hold of faculty in a timely fashion. I know it's June, so we would have been nice to have done this that last month or month before, but I'm thankful for the opportunity to have this.
So I believe Angie Hill Price had her hand raised first.
So I think I believe that there are a lot of people here who have family members who are retired. So I think they're going to ask about the level of coverage that's going to be provided through that. But my question is the coverage going to improve of what we have? Because the level of coverage, for example, the prescription benefits have actually been declining throughout the years. There's fewer providers in the area that will take the insurance, dental insurance in particular. We have fewer providers that will accept our dental insurance because, as they've told us, A&M pays badly. And so they've just not wanting to do business with the university. So there's fewer and fewer places to get in-network coverage. And the prescription benefit has been abysmal. I mean, it's been getting worse. My husband's company has theirs run through Blue Cross Blue Shield, but they use a different prescription benefits provider. So they cover medicine that I need. And the alternative that would be covered by our insurance is something where the first side effect is cancer. That is one of the possible side effects. So I think that I would hope that we're looking at how we can improve the level or the robustness of our benefits. Thank you.
I agree with everything you said. Our dental program, I'll start there because I think that's the order you put them in. Our dental program, it's with Delta Dental. I hate that what you're hearing as the customer is because A&M doesn't pay well, because that's what's being told. Actually, our benefit's pretty good. The problem is very real is that Delta Dental has not increased its rates to the providers in years, plural. So while our percentage of coverage and everything you would look at as a metric of what we can provide you and me as the user of that insurance is actually very, very good. But dentists are starting to opt out of that network because Delta's not sharing in that cost or their profit, actually, right, with those dentists. And System Office is well aware of this issue and working with Delta to try to find a better solution. So that's kind of where Delta Dental is. As far as the prescription, I completely agree with your comments there as well. Express Scripts is kind of the beauty of Express Scripts, and the reason that we use them is because how that marries in with our long-term 90-day plus prescription plan, especially for retirees, right? And how the 65 plus and the regular A&M care work together. There's tremendous cost savings to our plan, which enables us to keep a lot of other prices and costs low for us as the user of those benefits, simply because we're able to marry those two together. But for many of the same reasons, there are pharmacies and providers out there that aren't getting what they need from Express Scripts to be able to offer to us, the user, the consumer, what we need when we need it. There's a lot of, formulary changes that go on throughout the year where for whatever reason, a drug has been misclassified, possibly reclassified, more likely a new generic has come on the market that's at a better cost savings. There's a 1,000 reasons why some drug might get or reclassified in the formulary. Very little communication back to us as the users. So we find this out whenever we go to get our prescription at a Walgreens, CVS, pick a place, and only to find out that that's no longer covered. Also an issue that our office, Martha and I, have having very passionate discussions with our system office about what the solution is. And one of those things we've asked for and hope to get, working very hard towards this, is a dedicated helpline where we as the users on those prescriptions can call in and have somebody that works for our insurer that can work directly with the pharmacy to get us what we need same day and not have to play phone tag for a week to try to get the same answer we could get in a phone call. So it doesn't help the formulary problem, but it at least gets us the answers we need in a more timely fashion.
Senator Townsend has her hand raised next.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I'm still a little confused over the Medicare Advantage. One conversation I hear sounds like we will be required to use Medicare Advantage if we move into retirement. Another says it's optional. Could you clarify that for me, please?
Okay, so Martha, jump in here at any time. I'm not punning to you, but I can see you nodding your head from time to time. So what the system office has done, and the system office, do understand we're all part of the A&M system. So what happens here happens across the entirety and the breadth of the system. So that they choose these, they make these decisions. And not passing the buck, I think this was a good decision. Well, time will tell whether it was wise, but it looks good. Is for us to move away from independent care for 65 plus into this Medicare, this group Medicare Advantage plan. That will be the plan for retirees. It's not an optional deal. You do have the option to not use A&M benefits and go out into the regular market but you have that now with 65 plus as well. So the confusion will be, and it's very real, especially when open enrollment for Medicare comes around in November, December, early January, and those commercials just inundate you and the mail comes. It looks like the same thing because it says the same word, but it's not the same thing. So we will be in a group advantage plan rather than the open market advantage plan where it's more personal. And we get a lot of benefits from that. And actually a lot of cost to the retirees when they go to the doctor or they go to the hospital is much less than it is today in this advantage plan.
I think from the user's perspective is that they will not they will see, it will be very good coverage. They will not see any major changes from the user's prescription, from their side of the world. Where we'll see differences and what will help, like Keith mentioned, is stuff like our out-of-pocket maximums, which is $1,400, will be dropped to $750. So that'll help with cost as well. And I think it'll be a much richer plan. Keith hit on the key word where it's a group Medicare Advantage plan, which is a great thing, which means I know we all hear these horror stories where people are in the emergency room and need certain types of care that they don't get approved for. Those are the types of things that happen on the marketplace Medicare Advantage plans because they're individual plans and they often don't want to approve certain procedures. We should not see those types of issues through this group Medicare Advantage plan. So it sounds very rich for the end user. And to go back to your question, the only way that you would not be eligible to sign up for it in retirement is if you have a spouse that you're also covering. If they're not also age 65, you would have to stay in our regular A&M care plan until both you and your spouse are age 65 in order to do that. It wouldn't mean that you wouldn't have to still enroll in Medicare Part A and Part B once you're 65 and retired, but it could be a small window of time where waiting for a spouse to catch up to age 65 to make that transition to the full Medicare Advantage plan.
But Medicare Advantage is not going to kick in until retirement. Is that correct?
Medicare, actually, we ask for employees that are not retired, that haven't retired, that are age 65 to take Medicare Part A, which is the help with hospitalization, defer the Part B. So you're not having to pay for those premiums until you retire. And then those would kick in at the time of retirement where they pay their percentage. And then the Texas A&M plan would pay secondary to that.
Okay. I appreciate the feedback. I have a fair amount of experience with Medicare Advantage. It was not an open market policy. It was through a major state agency, and it is not the same, and with some pretty severe repercussions. So I'm pretty disappointed that the system made the decision to go that route. Thank you.
Would you mind explaining what the implications that you're mentioning? I'd like to know those as we're in discussion with the system office to kind of see what their feedback and response is on those areas that felt like you were let down in the past.
Well, it might be better to have the discussion offline, so I can give you some details, but it is, I guess, to try to give a Reader's Digest version. If you have an elderly patient who needs intermediate therapy or care, the only thing Medicare Advantage will put them in is skilled nursing. That is the only discussion they will have. And like I said, it's not an open market plan. It is a big state agency Medicare Advantage program. And it was extraordinarily frustrating and disappointing on more than one occasion. And the hospital social worker I talked to when we were trying to discharge told me on more than one occasion that she has never had a Medicare Advantage discharge to physical therapy or a rehab. They always discharge to skilled nursing.
Good feedback. I'll touch base with you afterwards and we can have a little bit more discussion. I'd be really interested in knowing. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Senator McGill has his hand raised next.
I guess mine's a quick question. Is WebMD going to be easier to deal with than my E5 versus when you have a physical and they want to count it? I tell them this is a wellness exam. Well, they put it as a physical, and I have to every year fight with this. And I think a complete physical should be as good as a wellness exam.
That's a great question. And yes, I think the answer to your question, what we've been told, we'll see, is yes. This is much easier to use. It's a yes. It's a better, at least from us as a user, the interface and the service that we get should improve. It won't stop the coding error at the doctor putting the wrong code on there, but at least you have a better resource to try to work through that.
So I have one other question. I'll get to the rest of the hands raised. So somebody asked if the information on the new fertility benefits is available. They went to the website and they could not find anything on the benefits page.
We are still waiting for all the details of what the coverage will be. We pulled this information that we have directly from the CBAC meeting that was held late last month. So it was hot off the press, and we're supposed to be getting the premiums and a few more details. And as soon as we get those will be listed on our same website that you just looked at.
Thank you very much. Senator Burge has his hand raised.
Yes, I may not have just heard correctly. So there's a June 30th deadline for the wellness exam, but there's a drop dead deadline of August 31st. So the real deadline is August 31st, or
Right.
did I misunderstand?
Nope, that's exactly right. So there's two things, right? That you have two steps. So you really have till August 31st to complete both of those steps. And you do have till August 31st to complete the non-wellness exam, because most of those can be done in well, not most, several of those can be done in a day. And that is drop dead. Past that date, we're in the next year, you don't get credit for it anymore. The June 30th is for the wellness exam because of the time that it takes for all that paperwork to flow through, get coded, and apply to your credit for September. But if it's late, go ahead and do it. Don't think you can't. Please go ahead and do it. It's better to be a month or two late than not have it at all.
Senator Arave, please, has his hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. So this is not related to the new program, but I had a bad experience just recently, and I reported it to my, the appropriate conduits within the university, but I want to express this publicly just in case someone else has had it. I had a regularly scheduled doctor's appointment, typical, I visit my doctor every 6 months or so. And for the first time, Blue Cross Blue Shield denied, the coverage of a regular visit, just because of the way and the order in which the doctor coded in the reasons for the visit. And it is really stupid. If the doctor had, entered the, diagnosis in a different order, literally changing the first thing for the second thing, it would have been covered. Of course, I called, I called the benefits department and so on, and hopefully it's gonna be fixed. I don't know, but I'm not gonna pay. But it was really, really sad that this happened, and really frustrating. I talked to the doctor, in a follow-up visit, and he said that he doesn't have any control. It depends on how his assistant enters, the codes and so on. And it is really frustrating. I mean, I wasted, I don't know, like a good morning of my day, my work day, because I cannot call over the weekend, right? So it was costly to the university because I had to waste, morning of my time trying to get this fixed. And it was just because some silly, thing that, Blue Cross Blue Shield has internally. They don't disclose it to anyone. I actually had to dig deep to figure out the reason for the denial of coverage. And it was just the order in which the symptoms, or sorry, the diagnosis were entered. And I think that this is really unfair, and it shouldn't be done like this.
So my response would be, if you could, get with me and provide me a little bit more detail, then I can absolutely get involved and see if we can remedy the situation. A lot of times it's just a matter of us doing some third party meshing up with the vendors and just seeing what's going on the back end. So, if you would like to reach out to me via benefits@TAMU, or you can email me personally at martha.alexander@tamu.edu. I'll be more than happy to try to mitigate this for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at this point, I do not see any more hands raised, and I think all the questions in the chat were answered.
Great. Thank you, Keith.
You're very welcome. Thank you all.
Now for the speaker's comments. Colleagues, I want to thank you all for entrusting me to represent you this year as your Speaker of the Faculty Senate. I will do my best to represent your needs and opinions. My goal is to make this a transformative year in terms of shared governance. As such, I would like to name this the Year of Shared Governance with the slogan, ask not what shared governance can do for you, but what you can do for shared governance. First, I want to remind all of the senators that while the executive committee members, the speaker-elect, and the secretary have changed roles, senators continue to remain in their role until the end of August. At that time, the newly elected senators will take their new offices. I have sent all of the newly elected senators a link to the live stream of this, and we'll do the same for the August meeting so that they may start the process of the Faculty Senate before being sworn into office in September. A reminder, there will not be a Faculty Senate meeting in July. As I said earlier, my goal is to make this a transformative year in terms of shared governance. In order to make this happen, we will need not only the administration to be all in, but we also need all of you to do your part to support shared governance. This means reporting what you learn here to your departments and units, and also getting and representing the voice of your constituents. I have already asked all the vice presidents to participate as is useful in any of your committee meetings, and they have all agreed wholeheartedly. This could mean coming to every meeting, as Norman Garza does with the Legislative Committee, or coming when requested, as the VPR does with the Research Committee. This way, your committee can be part of their decision processes. Additionally, I will be sending out a letter this week to each of your deans asking them to participate in your caucus meetings, either themselves or through an appropriate representative. This last year, Dean Bermudez attended all of the Arts and Science caucus meetings, and that has immensely benefited the college while going through a tumultuous time. Thus, as such, I would like to encourage some ground rules. When interacting with your senator colleagues or the administration, especially during this meeting, please treat everyone with respect, assume positive intention, and make comments and questions that have a goal of moving the university in a positive direction. We need to be able to have many productive, uncomfortable conversations if we want to make substantive change together. Additionally, in order for you to be effective in your role as a representative of your constituents, you need to be present and active. It's time for you to elect your next caucus leader. This traditionally always happens in May, but since COVID, this has been happening closer to September. I would like to see this move back to May in future years. Caucus leaders are meant to change now to ensure that an experienced member of your caucus is your next leader. I will be reaching out to all of the caucus leaders to provide any support you need in this process. As a note to the members of the engineering caucus, thank you for acting as my guinea pigs for this new process. And please remember to submit your nominations by tomorrow at 5 p.m. Similarly, speaking of your committees, you have all been sent a survey to specify which committees you are interested in participating in and why. This is due to be completed by June 20th. We will then allocate and send out your committee memberships. I will reach out to the committee chairs to provide any needed support for you to select your next committee chair. Your voices have been very helpful over the past to express the needs of the faculty to the administration. You have enabled them to make substantive positive change. A few of the advances that have occurred recently because of your Senate voices. One, Facilities is opening a new Aggie Works program, which empowers all of your facilities coordinators. Anyone with an SSO account, i.e. anyone with a UIN, can access the Aggie Works system and submit requests. Only facilities coordinators will be able to state that a task has been completed, and that will only happen after they personally have confirmed completion. This new AccuWork system will go into effect July 3rd. HR has been putting in significant efforts to be more efficient, cutting down initial response and completion times in September from over 28 hours to less than 4 days for an initial response, and from over 3 days to less than a day for task completion. The VPR has completed an SAP that is in effect to allow for the reimbursement of daycare costs for faculty with direct research programs when at a meeting required for research completion. Some colleges have or are working on broader policies. The difficulties in the IRB process has caused the VPR's office to adopt a new IRB management system, Huron. That system will go live on July 24th. Please refer to the email on that with additional deadlines, which include some deadlines occurring today. In terms of finance, delegated purchases lower than 25K no longer need to go out for bidding. This is a raise from 10K. Additionally, departments can handle their own purchases between 25 and 50K, provided they get at least 3 bids. IT is currently putting in huge efforts to make sure that Wi-Fi strength is high across campus, as well as finding cheaper long-term solutions. I'm sure you've all heard of ChatGPT and know that there are a number of similar systems out there now. The generalized term for this is generative AI. IT is looking into creating our own private generative AI system for faculty, staff, and students to use. For those who don't realize, anything that you enter into a generative AI system is then public knowledge. Thus, if you, your colleagues, or your students are putting private research into these systems, they lose potential IP rights on what has been entered. You also need to be careful not to enter any student data into generative AI systems, as you would be violating FERPA just as you would if you're posting it on a public website. The Good Bull Scholarship has given out $250K for community events, and now all students in the Corps have free tuition. Faculty Affairs has paved the way to allow APT faculty to have up to 5-year contracts as appropriate and negotiated with their department. This is in addition to the new minimum salaries for APT faculty and postdocs. The Office of Faculty Affairs is hosting a reception for senators, all senators, to meet with the university leadership team on Monday, September 11th at 5 p.m. in Rudder Tower on the 11th floor. If the senators have any questions on any of the items I've mentioned here, I encourage you to bring them up in the committee of the whole. If there are any other updates the administration would like to mention, there will be a space at the start of the committee of the whole to mention these. Finally, I was at many graduation ceremonies in May, and it was a wonderful experience to see so many happy families. I'm part of a committee to reflect on what went well and what could be improved. Please send me any accolades or suggestions that you want me to forward to the graduation organizers. Thank you. That marks the end of the speaker comments. For our next item, we have the installation of 2 senators, Dr. Leslie Easterwood, DVM of the School of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences, who is a returning senator that will be filling the seat of departing Senator Dr. Tracy Venumupali, and Dr. Heather Ramsey, College of Arts and Sciences, returning senator that will fill the seat of Daniel Collins. Dr. Easterwood and Dr. Ramsey, please unmute your microphone and raise your right hand. I charge you to serve well and faithfully, to discharge your duties diligently, and to uphold the Constitution of the Faculty Senate and the academic integrity of Texas A&M University. Do you accept this obligation? Say, I do.
I do.
Then I declare you officially installed as a faculty senator of Texas A&M University, and I welcome you to share in the governance of this institution.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Woohoo. Glad to have you back. We will now move on to approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any corrections to the May 8th meeting minutes found in attachment B?
Senator Hale has his hand raised.
Yeah, in the committee of the whole, minor change. I was in the Capitol in Austin, but I was there in my capacity, as I said, as the president of the Texas Council of Faculty Senates in my testimony against Senate Bill 17. It needs to mention the Texas Council of Faculty Senates. I think it needs to say Senate Bill 17 as well.
Can you send me an email with that information?
I'll do that.
Thank you. Are there any other corrections to the May 8th meeting minutes found in attachment B?
None.
Hearing none, I declare the minutes approved as distributed with the minor exception of Trevor Hale's mention. Moving on to the consent agenda. I was asked to pull from the agenda OCNG 624, Machine Learning in Environmental Sciences, and ENTC 641, Data Science, Simulation, and Experimental Methods for Industry. Are there any other concerns with the consent agenda?
Speaker Hammond, I don't see any hands raised and nobody has put anything in the chat.
Thank you. Hearing, oh, we have a hand raised.
Yes, this is Tamiran Sinha from Statistics speaking, and we have some issues about these two courses, the courses that you mentioned. And so the statistics request that these courses to be pulled out, and those two departments should consult with the statistics.
Are there any other concerns with the consent agenda? Hearing none. Oh, sorry, Andrew. Hearing
I
none.
don't think so.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Hearing none, the remainder of the consent agenda is approved as presented. Does anyone else wish to state your concerns with these two courses?
If you
Okay. Go ahead, Senator Sinha.
Yes, I just want to speak few things about the two courses. And for example, the course Machine Learning for Environmental Sciences, OCNG 624, the materials involving geospatial data analysis seems to be well within the reach of our spatial courses. At the very least, it should mention some stat courses as prerequisite, and also the syllabus should provide more details on the topics to be covered. This is number one. And number two is about the engineering technology department wants to drop the prerequisite for stat 601 for the course data analysis, simulation, and experimental methods for industry, ENTC 641. Based on the course contents, we think stat 601 is clearly appropriate for ENTC, and we were not informed about this drop-in. And so we request both the departments should talk to statistics to resolve these issues.
Dr. Sinha, please make a motion to pull these courses.
Yes. I provide motion to pull these courses.
So that's not debatable. That just gets automatically done from its consent agenda. But since you already pulled them, they're off the consent agenda anyway. But anyway, so that's not a debatable. We don't vote on it. It's already happened. Okay. Once that's been done, it's done.
Senator Alvarado has his hand raised.
Yes, just to follow up, ENTC 641 is my course. I developed the course, and I don't see the need for the students to take stat 601. What they need to take an undergraduate level stat course to be able to take my course. So I don't know in the department who decided to make it a requirement for the course, but I told the graduate program coordinator that it's not needed. But that's all I did. Okay, the decision was not made by me. So you need to talk to the leadership of our department.
Yeah, so it would be nice if your department talk to our department to resolve that issue. If you want to change the prerequisite, that is fine, but there are a lot of options there. So please talk.
I understand, but I don't know why in the first place the department decided to make 601 a requirement for my course.
I think we can pause here and you guys can talk offline. And
yeah, I understand. I'm just trying to give you my take on it. Thank you.
Angie?
Just to clarify, so when something's pulled off the consent agenda, then it would go back into new business, I believe. And when it comes up there, then we would take each of those items individually. And then there could be a motion to, what I would suggest is a motion to return the course to the GIC or the UCC, depending on whether it's graduate or undergraduate. And then they can figure out, normally a support letter from that department would be requested, or they can figure out what the issues are and then have it brought back to the Senate. We don't want to table stuff because that becomes more problematic. But if you return it to the previous committee, then they can hash out all the issues and come up to the agreements about the prerequisites and things like that. So if we once we're done with our consent agenda, when we go into the new business portion, you should, Speaker Hammond, you would bring those two items and say, is there a motion regarding ocean, that class? And then it would be the senator could move that those be returned to the GIC.
Okay, old business bylaws committee revisions. These items were pulled from the March agenda for further review by the Bylaws Committee of Administrative Titles. All titles have been researched for the Scholarship Committee and are correct to the best of their knowledge. The University Library Council revisions omit previous bylaws. The first proposed revision to the bylaws deals with the Scholarship Committee, Attachment D, D1. Secretary Klein, will you please move Attachment D1?
I move to approve attachment D1 revisions to the scholarship committee.
Is there any discussion?
I don't see any hands or anything posted in the chat.
Secretary Klein, can you please launch the poll?
Okay, it does not appear it has changed, so I'm going to end the poll and I will share the results. And for the record, it was 65 in favor, 2 against.
The revision to the bylaws is adopted. Next, revisions to the University Library Council, Attachment D2. Secretary Klein, will you please move Attachment D2?
I move to approve attachment D2, revisions to the University Library Council.
Is there any discussion?
I do not see any discussion.
Secretary Klein, can you please launch the poll?
Okay, it appears to stabilize, so I'm going to end the poll and I'll remember to share the results this time. So it was 69 for, 1 against.
Great. The revision to the bylaws is adopted. Next, committee reports. Core Curriculum Council course report. Are there any questions or concerns for the Core Curriculum Council report found in attachment C2?
I think we're good, Senator Speaker Hammond.
Hearing no questions or concerns, I declare the report approved as submitted. Also presenting their committee report today, we have the Academic Affairs Committee, which can be found in attachment C1.
We're good to go to Speaker Hammond.
Are you going to speak on behalf of the Academic Affairs Committee? Just a quick update.
Doctors Haney and I, as co-chairs, will speak. Is it possible to share a screen? We do have a very brief slide presentation.
You should be good to go.
All right. Yes. Hopefully everyone can see our PowerPoint presentation. Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Matt Taylor. I'm in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, along with Dr. Adam Haney, who is in Galveston. You see on the slide at right, the Academic Affairs Committee's membership for the year 22 to 23. You have a written report, more comprehensive, but we wanted to hit some highlights. On the left-hand side, you see the charges that were brought to us by Speaker Rice. brought to us by our speaker and the executive committee for the previous cycle related to issues of engaging with university administration on items of admissions and recruitment, the Aggie Honor Systems Office, its processes, how faculty interact with that office, and how faculty can support the office's activities in terms of holding students accountable to the honor code. We discussed briefly Student Rule 7, whether or not necessary changes were immediate or of concern. And then we had some other items. And then I'll point your attention to the last charge late in the year, in the fall year. I know that says fall 2023. I apologize for that. That should say spring 2023. Fall 23 syllabus inclusion with what Speaker Hammond was talking about with generative AI systems, Chat GPT and the like. The speaker asked us to consider some potential language that could go into syllabus guidance for the coming fall semester. And then if you look at the right-hand side, you see what activities our committee engaged in, either through engaging with university administration, such as charge 1, no activity was recommended. We had a really outstanding meeting where Blair Alvarado, the director of the Honor System Office, came and presented to us and talked about what her office does, how faculty can interact and assist the office with regards to honor systems. And then co-chair Haney led a team of senators on the committee, as well as some faculty from Galveston campus, on generating a report that is appended to our committee report that set out some possible sets of language as it regards faculty use of generative AI in classroom settings. Co-chair Haney.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. So the generative AI programs, since that's evolving so quickly, we recommend that be a standing charge given to the Academic Affairs Committee so that we can stay on top of changing language and the changing dynamic. We're seeing it show up. I just saw that it showed up in lawyers' briefs, that there was a case of a lawyer actually filed a case generated by generative AI, and it hallucinated several cases. And so the judge was quite harsh in sanctioning that lawyer for that. So we're seeing this continually develop. This needs to be a standing issue with the Academic Affairs Committee, bringing in different faculty expertise, either on the Faculty Senate or not on the Faculty Senate. You can find those recommendations. I do not recommend making them part of the minimum syllabus requirements because that language is going to change so rapidly. It would make compliance difficult. Speaking of minimum syllabus requirements, Academic Affairs should continue to look into the efficacy of that language. Has it actually increased students taking advantage of the resources listed out in the minimum syllabus requirements, and then revisit whether that could be turned into links for compliance issues. Because every time we change the minimum syllabus requirements language, remember, all of our faculty have to change all of that wording to be in compliance. And if it can be applied to a link, and I remember there were some issues surrounding that, if we can work that out and negotiate that, that would help with compliance as well. Also, with following up on study abroad, I'm continuing to get more and more emails and messages from faculty members about difficulties they've had with that office. Literally about 5 minutes before this meeting started, I finally got confirmation of having a meeting with Dr. Balabina and several others. Dr. Scott as well is on that. And so hopefully we can address things like scholarship deadlines, some concerns about how the office is functioning, as well as creating some more cost-effective steps rather than just the set fees that many of us have raised concerns about. And so those need to continue to be Academic Affairs charges, but that's where we stand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent job. Just to comment also, as you heard me mention about the implications of generative AI, since my research is in the field of AI and I do a lot with education, I'm happy to talk to any departments as would be helpful to anybody. Okay. Are there any other committees that who want to present their reports today? If not, all the other committees will present their reports at the August meeting. Hearing none, that brings us to new business. Okay, first we will discuss the 2 courses that were pulled. The numbers of those one more time are OCNG 624, Machine Learning in Environmental Sciences, and ENTC 641, Data Analysis, Simulation, and Experimental Methods for Industry. Senator Sinha or Senator Alvarado, do either of you have more to discuss on this issue, or does one of you want to move to table one or both of these courses so that discussions could occur offline?
Could I?
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we return these 2 courses to the Graduate Council.
Second.
I second that.
Do we have a vote then? Can we, Senator Sinha, did you want to add something before we do the vote?
No, I think it can be discussed offline. So I would suggest to move it to GIC, and there two departments can discuss it.
Okay, excellent. Secretary Klein, can you please provide a poll so that we may vote that these 2 courses get returned to the Graduate Council?
I will launch the poll, but I think maybe it would be good for somebody to very clearly state exactly what we're voting on again.
So I move that we return OCNG 624 and ENTC 641 to the Graduate Council to resolve the issues brought forth by statistics.
I'll relaunch the poll. Okay, it looks like the poll stabilized, and I will also mention the number of people voting has gone up, which is typically opposite of what we see in these meetings. So I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to end the poll, and I'll share the results. For the record, there's 71 for and 2 against.
The 2 courses will be returned to the Graduate Council to resolve the issues brought forth by statistics. The next item of new business will be to announce the winners of the Aggie Spirit Awards. Joining us today, Najib Aminar from the School of Law with his nominator, Dr. Tisha Dodge. Najib Aminar was a Farsi and Pashto interpreter in Afghanistan before becoming a law student at A&M, doing an exemplary job of communicating with and supporting his clients, despite English being his 3rd language. When the U.S. evacuated its troops in 2021, his wife, parents, and family members were in grave danger. In 2022, his family was suddenly evacuated, and he worked tirelessly at odd hours to enable his family to relocate to the U.S., including days of State Department interviews and developing proof that he had housing and economic resources to support 10 faculty members while being an exemplary law student, serve the underprivileged in our Texas community, and provide translation services for A&M visitors. Please join me in congratulating Najib Aminar, the first winner of this year's Aggie Spirit Awards. Next, we have Isabel Hanna from the School of Nursing and her nominator, Dr. Leroy Markland. Isabel is a retired U.S. Army officer and a first-generation Aggie. She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2005 at the age of 4, but was never deterred by her health condition. She is an active member and role model for the TAMU College Diabetes Network. She works with other students who have been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes to empower them to manage healthcare needs while fulfilling their ultimate dreams of successfully graduating from TAMU. Isabel was on the 2021 Spring School of Public Health Dean's List for academic merit. She'll graduate cum laude in August 2023. Please join me in congratulating Isabel Hanna. Next, we have Alexandra Powell from the School of Medicine with her nominator, Dr. John Scari. Alexandra Powell has dedicated significant efforts to improving the inclusive community of her peers, serving as the Graduate Student Organization President in the School of Medicine, working with the Associate Dean to develop programs, task forces, and activities for her peers and ensure student representation in faculty committees. She organized a seminar entitled Who Gets to Be a Scientist and was instrumental in including historical context into the course on the medical science, responsible conduct and research so that her peers could be more effective when working with the community. Please join me in congratulating Alexandra Powell. Last but not least, we have Rebecca Taylor, College of Engineering, with her nominator, Dr. Angie Hill Price. Rebecca Taylor is in the ICU today and unable to attend this meeting. However, Dr. Hill Price is here today to acknowledge the receipt of her award. At age 7, Rebecca Taylor was diagnosed with pediatric pancreatitis and hospitalized for the next 7 months, an additional 1,500 days in hospitals and numerous surgeries, including the removal of 7 of her organs. At age 14, she told the Make-A-Wish Foundation that she wanted to create a foundation that would help children with pediatric pancreatitis. Today, she and her mother now lead that foundation and raised over $3 million. She continues to face tremendous pain, adversity, and continuous weeks in the hospital. Yet she graduated first in our high school class, was the National Merit Scholar, admitted to the only 2 schools she applied to, Harvard and Texas A&M, and now is part of NMED. Please join me in congratulating Rebecca Taylor. All 4 of these students serve as premier examples of the Aggie Spirit, and I am proud to be able to award them the Aggie Spirit Award. I would like to thank you all for joining us today, and on behalf of the entire Faculty Senate, I congratulate you. This concludes the award portion of our new business. You are free to sign off from the meeting now. For the next item of new business, we have 3 student rules that have been submitted for approval. Student Rule 20.1.2.3.2, fabrication, which can be found in attachment D3. Secretary Klein, would you please move Student Rule 20.1.2.3.2?
I move Student Rule 20.1.2.3.2 fabrication.
Is there any discussion? Secretary, there was none, right? Yeah. Secretary Klein, please launch a poll.
It does not appear the poll is changing anymore, so I'm going to end it and share the results. There were 68 in favor, 0 against.
The revisions are adopted. Next, Student Rule 20.1.2.3.3, falsification, which can be found in attachment D4. Senator Klein, would you please move this student rule?
I move Student Rule 20.1.2.3.3 falsification.
Is there any discussion?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Secretary Klein, please launch a poll.
It looks like everyone has voted, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results. There were 69 in favor, 0 against.
The revisions are adopted. Next, Student Rule 31, racial and ethnic harassment, which can be found in attachment D5. Secretary Klein, would you please move Student Rule 31?
I move Student Rule 31, racial and ethnic harassment.
Is there any discussion?
We have several hands raised. Senator Jimenez had his hand raised first.
Yeah, so it says, so I'll read it. The Department of Civil Rights and Equity Investigations would like to request elimination of Student Rule 31, racial and ethnic harassment. Justification violations related to racial and ethnic harassment are currently addressed in university rule, blah, 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 civil rights compliance and no longer needed in student rules. So I guess I understand that the reason to remove this is because now it's a redundant rule, but I just want to know, how is this going to look? We're going to have newspaper headlines that say Texas A&M gets rid of a rule against racial and ethnic harassment. Do we really, is there any other reason to remove it other than just the fact that it's redundant? And if so, why not just leave it? I don't know if anyone can speak to that or wants to. Thanks.
Senator Carly Miles has her hand raised.
Thank you. I apologize for not having a working camera today. So my question is along the lines similar to Senator Jimenez's question. It strikes me as odd to strike that language out entirely like that. I'm in favor of leaving it also, even though it is redundant. And if redundancy is the issue, I noticed, of course, in the amended language in the two rules that we just voted on, that there was amended language there. And I think certainly with the current climate, it's important for us to include that is something very important, especially given the university's history, that is definitely a part of our student rules. So either some sort of amended language that refers people to see the extended rule in a different place, or leaving it alone entirely. Thank you.
Senator Woosley has his hand raised next.
I'm on the same page as the previous two speakers. Unless there's, can somebody tell us a real reason why this is necessary, especially at this time? And I'm open if there is, but if there's not, I agree with the last two speakers.
Senator Angie Hill Price has her hand raised.
So Senator Ramsey and Senator Townsend and I are all on the Rules and Regulations Committee representing Faculty Senate, and this came up and was discussed. And none of us, I don't have an opinion about, it was the Office of Civil Rights investigation were the ones that said that it was redundant, and the system rule trumped, or system policy trumped. But I don't have a particular opinion whether we keep it or not keep it. So I can't make a persuasive argument to get rid of the rule, is what I'm badly saying here.
Senator Ramsey has her hand raised.
I just wanted to second what Senator Hill Price said. So I was also at the meeting. I raised this exact concern for the exact same reasons. And what we were told is that there's an issue with jurisdiction as well, that if it stays as a student rule, then that implies that this type of an infraction would have jurisdiction in the same area as student rules. So, student affairs and all of that, where that is actually not the case. Anything that falls under this category is supposed to go through the Title IX office instead. So that was, as I recall it, the explanation that was given, because like I said, I had the exact same concern. I ran to the meeting. I was late because I knew it was on the agenda, and I like almost shoved some kids out of the way because I wanted to bring this up. But that was how they explained it. It was a jurisdictional issue, and that to be in compliance with Title IX and all of that, it had to be removed from student rules.
Former Speaker Rice has his hand raised.
Thank you. I think the previous speakers made an excellent point, and I would suggest that we send it back to the Rules Committee to see if there is not a way to at least keep the reference to the idea that we are against the hazing that was covered by the rule. And then it can be noted somewhere in that wording that this is actually covered by civil rights rather than the student rules. But I think the elimination of it seems like a poor idea. And my suggestion would be that we send it back. And if it's appropriate, I would actually move to amend Secretary Klein's motion on this rule that we, rather than approve it, send it back to Rules and Regulations for further review.
Second that. I'll second that.
So just to make you made a motion, Dale, that it's to recommend it be moved back to the Rules Committee for language update.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then James, I just wanted to make sure it was clear. Then Secretary Klein, could you please launch a poll? And to be clear, yes means send it back, not to approve it.
Yes means that we're going to amend the motion to say we're going to send it back, and then we have to vote on the motion to send it back, just to clarify.
Okay, so we're voting on changing the motion.
So it appears that everyone has voted, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results. And for the record, there were 64 for, 6 against.
Okay, so the motion has been changed. The new motion is that the motion is to send back the Student Rule 31 to get updated language. Secretary Klein, can you please launch a poll?
Can you repeat what the motion is?
To send it back to the Rules Committee to get updated language to make it clear that the rule is not going away all entirely. It already is covered by someplace else.
Okay, I have not seen any shift in the voting for a while. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results. There are 65 in favor, 4 against.
The motion passed and Student Rule 31 will return back to the Rules Committee in efforts to update the language to make it clear that this is being handled somewhere else. Next item on the agenda is a discussion of having hybrid meetings starting in the fall. The idea is that anyone who would like to continue meeting on Zoom could still do so, but that those people who would like to meet in person could do so in Rudder. We will have an official vote on this in the August meeting, but before we do this, does anyone want to discuss anything in regards to this?
Senator Haney raised his hand first.
Thank you, Secretary Klein. By keeping the meetings on Zoom, as we've talked about before, that keeps everyone on an equal footing. There's nothing preventing those of you who are at College Station from still having your meet and greets together. But for official business, I think for the distributed campuses, this is a more equitable solution. I think it also allows for more flexibility for everyone, not just us, to be able to join in the meetings from anywhere. So I would strongly, strongly urge the Senate to consider the equitable issues of having all of our business meetings and formal sessions on Zoom. Thanks.
Senator Carly Miles has her hand raised next.
I agree completely. I think that was Senator Haney who just spoke. As APTF or APT faculty, having the meetings on Zoom has been absolutely indispensable of being able to participate equitably in the faculty senate. And so as an APT faculty member, I'm very much in favor of that, although I don't think that I will be able to vote on that in August. I think old members don't come in August, if I understood correctly. But
no, you will be here in August.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. But yes, very increased equity among all the faculty. Thank you.
Senator Arave is next.
I mean, I agree with the sentiment, and I would bring the other advantage of having these online meetings is that those of us who otherwise wouldn't be able to participate, who are on campus in College Station, but that travel a lot, I miss a lot less Senate meetings because of this ability to join online. I still think that meeting face-to-face once in a while is good, just to see that you interact with real people. But there are other mechanisms that can be set for that to happen without without removing the advantage that we have with this more flexible way of connecting and being engaged in the Senate.
Senator Falvo has her hand raised next.
Thank you very much for recognizing me. I agree with the sentiments of those who spoke before me. I just wanted to throw my voice into the ring there. Certainly, there are a couple of considerations. As senators have pointed out before me, there is the equity issue, which I can say as a Galveston senator has been huge. It's been absolutely huge. There is definitely the convenience issue, even for folks that are in College Station. But the other thing that I would point out too that's really important is simply that it's not just equity for equity's sake. Like, it actually helps us collaborate much, much better when we are all online. So the equity it's an idealistic concept, but it also functionally allows us to be in touch much, 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 much better. I think there really would be no expectation if we did in-person meetings that there was no hybrid option anymore. So that means that it's either going to be all online or hybrid. And hybrid is just, it is a really difficult method to get to work well. I think we all know this because of what we have done in our classes. I think we all know this from the difficulty that we have had with hybrid meetings, but I would just encourage you as you remember this to think about the kinds of interactions that you have had teaching in hybrid format and remember how smooth this is. It just seems to me like what we lose can be made up. I would be happy to drive to College Station once a year for a gathering. Like that would be a different way to think about perhaps including people. Keeping in mind too, that driving to College Station, even from the Galveston campus, is a significant amount of time that is taken away from our students and our other duties. So yeah, just thank you for considering putting them all online. Strongly put my voice behind it.
Senator Jimenez is next.
Thanks. So I'm going to have a slightly different point of view on this. So I'm on CPI, and CPI has been meeting in a hybrid format for a while now. And as far as I can tell, it's been working okay. It's not like the hybrid teaching that was so hard on us that one time. I've been attending the CPI meetings in person, and it's really been a pleasant experience for me, and I really miss being around people, and then having that has been very nice. And maybe I don't know, maybe about half of us show up, and then half of us are on Zoom. I don't know how I would vote on a resolution once we're done with all the discussions and everything, but maybe Senate leadership could talk to CPI leadership. I don't know if Deb is on the call right now, but Deb is, he's the chair of CPI, and see how has that been working for CPI and what are some experiences. Maybe it turns out, nah, it kind of sucks, but we should go back to full Zoom, or maybe we should think about it. But obviously, just to emphasize, we're talking about doing Zoom and in person, not just in person, so people would have an opportunity. And yeah, I think it's been working for CPI, but that's just my point of view from someone who's been attending in person. I'm done.
Senator Kolozinski has his hand raised next.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that I understand this, is that we're not proposing to make the meetings in person only. We're proposing to make the meetings with an option to attend by Zoom or an option to attend in person.
That is correct.
Yeah, and so yeah, I guess maybe it's me being a finance guy, but we always say, options are good. Free options are always valuable. I'll also say that my department we've had a lot of hybrid meetings. We have a lot of people in my department who live outside of College Station. We have hybrid meetings, and they go very well. I've attended some of those. I've attended them remotely. I've attended them online. I've seen no difference between having an ineffectiveness between having fully online versus hybrid meetings. They both seem to work just fine. And before the pandemic, actually, I was teaching in an analytics program, an executive analytics program, and it was half and half online and in person, and it worked very well. There's ways to, so I'm still struggling to understand this equity issue. I mean, again, you have the option to attend via Zoom, and if you want to come in person, you can come in person. That's my view, is I strongly support going to hybrid meetings.
Senator Berg has his hand raised.
Yeah, coming from Fort Worth, I do want to strongly urge the equity side of this, because I think if we have large contingents that are in person and or that are offline, there is a separation. There's interactions that happen in one place and not in the other. It takes something away from the even footing that we've all had with the Zoom format. And again, if we're talking about options, the people who are there are going to be in a different circumstance than the people who are online. The fact that it can be done doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way to handle things for a representative body like this one, where we are so dispersed and diffused and involved in so many areas. So I would hope that we could keep primarily online, but with a heavy dose of in-person events, because there's more travel and that's a possibility as well. So thank you.
Senator O'Philly has her hand raised next.
Hey, howdy, everybody. I think Mark Birch actually said it very succinctly, exactly what I was going to say, plus some of the other previous individuals like Kali Miles. I will not be coming back later. However, I still believe that having the official meeting by Zoom kind of sells everybody, and it makes it more inclusive. And then, of course, just as Viad mentioned, if you do want social events, you can always have the social events in person. I just basically believe that having the official proceedings by Zoom really, really helps to include everybody. Thank you.
I had Senator Banerjee was going to be next on the Moto G7. I don't know. He has just disappeared.
He's back.
Oh, Deb, are you there?
Not in a way we can hear him.
Senator Falvo had her hand raised next.
Thank you. I realize I've already spoken on this issue, so I will be very, very brief. But Senator Kolasinski said that he didn't quite understand the equity part. So I just wanted to contribute so that that was very clear, since a few of us have said that. In terms of options are good, but precisely what's not equal is that we really don't have the same options. So those that are in College Station have the option to go to the meeting, but that same option requires a certain level of hurdles. It's just like any other kind of inequity. It's that this option is this easy for you, but this hard for me, or however that is, right? So when we're talking about equity, I think the reason that we are using that word is because getting equally heard, there are more obstacles to doing so. And that means leaving our students for the amount of time that it takes to drive here. It means not being able to grade for that amount of time. And I'm thinking about Galveston, which is 2.5 hours away, not Cutter, which is impossible. So like when we're thinking about equity, I think that the framing of equity is because of how hard it would be to do the same things, have the same voice, have the same input. And that's not equity for myself, Grace, Adam, and Chris. It's not equity for our caucus. It's equity for the people we represent, to be that equally represented. So I think that that is where the term equity is coming from.
Senator Townsend has her hand raised next.
Thank you. I did take a few minutes to look around at what some of the other universities in the state are doing that have a big contingent of distributed campuses. University of Texas is keeping their Senate meetings on Zoom for the coming year, as is Texas Tech. I feel like this has been fairly well normalized to work well, and it's not something we had an option for before COVID, but it is working well for us now. And I really don't see a compelling reason to change. Thank you.
Senator Rice has his hand raised next.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that I think there was one sort of unseen advantage that I believe Senator Carly Miles sort of hinted at in her reference to APT faculty. And that has been that I think being on Zoom and having the ability to send messages to Senator Klein, especially for those who were concerned about raising issues that from which they perceived might upset perhaps their college leadership or university leadership, and otherwise might have a reluctance to speak out, have found this method to be really helpful. And my concern would be that this could result in a division in which tenured people or some APT like me, who have not hesitated to be vocal, as you all know, would come in person, and an awful lot of APT who felt like they did not want to necessarily be critical in person would take the Zoom option. And so we would have a divide that I think could potentially be unhealthy. And if we decided to go back to in-person meetings, I think we would need to find a way to allow that kind of process that we have, I think, very successfully used these last, 2.5 or 3 years to remain in place.
So I raised my hand, so I'll recognize myself. I just want to add some historical context. So in the past, one of the things we used in the bad TTVN days was we had the branch campuses met separately in a single room there. And so it was a type of kind of hybrid, but it wasn't 97 little people on the screen. We could get it down to a handful, which may eliminate some of the concerns that the branch campuses might not have equal voices in the room. It's just a slightly different way of thinking about things we did in the past. Senator Hill Price has raised her hand.
Yeah, I think it's probably come out now. I just wanted to clarify and again, it's just to clarify, it was that the proposal was simply so that anyone who wanted to join on Zoom could do so, which is different than we had before pre-COVID. So if you were traveling, you couldn't participate, or if you didn't want to walk across campus in the rain, you couldn't participate. And this would allow people who wanted to be in the Senate room to be there, but people who wanted to join on Zoom in a hybrid fashion could choose to do so. So that was a little bit different than what we did pre-COVID. Just do keep in mind also that anytime anybody wants to speak to the speaker or to the Senate, that they do have to be recognized. They would have to go up and talk into a microphone. So it's not like there's discussions that are happening in the room that people who are on Zoom would be left out of, because they would all the discussion happens at those microphones, just like we're doing now. I just wanted to clarify that. It's not, I mean, it's just, that was to clarify the option is all.
Senator Townsend has raised her hand.
Thank you. And I do appreciate the sentiment that it is different now than it was before COVID. But I don't know how many people on this meeting participated in those meetings before COVID as a distributed campus. But having done that, I can tell you I spent a lot of time on the big screen trying to get somebody to acknowledge me and that my hand was raised. And I understand it's different now with Zoom, but it's still, I think, very easy for what's going on in the room to take on a life of its own, and very difficult to acknowledge the folks on the big screen when they have something to say. I sent many emails to the organizers saying, hey, mic's not working, I can't, and just all those technical issues that, even though Rudder has been upgraded, and I do get that, I understand there's a lot of efforts been made to make that better, but it's, when stuff goes down, when we're on Zoom like this, and it goes down for everybody. When stuff goes down, when it's hybrid, those in the room keep on going, and the people that are on the distributed campuses are not able to do the keep on going. So it's better. I would not disagree that it is better now than it was before, but I do still think it presents some challenges, having done this before for many years. Thank you.
Senator Haney has his hand raised next.
Thank you, Secretary Klein. I'd just like to also remind us that when we're talking about hybrid, if we'll recall what we discussed as a Senate, when the pandemic sprung up, and then we all went online and then hybrid. And the consensus of the faculty senate was that hybrid was not a preferable way to deliver instruction. And so I would just urge fellow senators to remember those conversations, how we all decided as a body that we would not recommend going forward with hybrid when the administration was urging us to do that because of the disadvantages that we're talking about here. So hybrid is not one of those things where it's perfectly equitable. And I just wanted to bring that up so that people could consider that as well. We rejected it for students, and now here we're basically having that same discussion over hybrid.
Senator Jimenez has his hand raised.
So, as I said, I'm in favor of the hybrid format, but I've heard a lot of folks talking, and I want to be sensitive to the concerns. And it would be nice if feedback could be collected, not just from those of us who are, loudmouths and want to, talk in the faculty senate meeting, but just if there was some kind of survey or something like that Tracy could put out, and then we could read over maybe some reasons and just to have some time to think about it, because if it turns out there's a lot of people that have great reasons why we shouldn't go away, we should just stay fully virtual, then I'll vote to stay fully virtual. But if it's so I guess I want to collect more information. Also, I think it's important to talk to CPI and see what the experience was. And I guess Deb keeps coming in and out. I guess he's driving in his car, so it would be good to hear from CPI. I'm done.
Speaker Hammond has.
Yeah, I'm saying something basically because Deb keeps coming in and out. I'm also on the executive committee, or was on for CPI. One of the reasons why I like the hybrid is because I do feel like I'm able to interact with the entire group a lot easier because it reduces the number of people on the Zoom. I have to go back and forth between the pages to be able to look at all of you. And also with CPI, when there are fewer people on Zoom, most of those people tend to show their video. And so it's a much more engaged group of people discussing, because and we're able to see the people on Zoom much better, and they actually get a lot more attention often than the people sitting in the room. That's actually sometimes, the people in the room that get their hand missed. Of course, with the way the faculty senate does it, they have to come up to the microphone, makes it easier. And also the equipment in 601 is quite good right now. I haven't noticed any issues with it.
Senator Laporte hasn't had a chance to talk yet, so I'll take her next.
Oh, it's okay. I was away and I had to come back. I was at another meeting very briefly, but I did want to mention that when we first moved to Zoom, I was on the EC at the time, and we immediately recognized the need to have a senator devoted to the Zoom kind of chat and logistics type thing. So if we were to move to the hybrid solution, it would be the same as putting a TA in the classroom that was dedicated to Zoom functions. And I think that is probably the only way that we could do it, so that that person was empowered to monitor the chat, make sure voices were heard, and it would not be the speaker's role or even the secretary's role, but there would be a Zoom facilitator in the room. And I think that is probably the only way we could make it equitable.
Senator Falvo has her hand raised.
Again, thank you for recognizing me, and thank you for the time that I'm taking today. One thing that has not been brought up in this conversation that I do think is really important, and I also think is indicated by this conversation, is that the MGT report recently came out with the very large statement that College Station needs to include us more. That was the context of the report for Galveston. And, it specifically spoke to the lack of trust. It specifically spoke to the lack of a voice. It specifically spoke to not being included in meetings. One of the great things about Faculty Senate is the equity that has been established between the remote campuses and main campus. And so what I am trying to do here is encourage what is in the MGT report. This is what they wanted to see. They wanted to see that kind of participation between us, that equity between us. So I am struggling because Jorge, you seem to be wanting to chat in about this in the chat, but you might have some opinions you want to share with the rest of us. I do recognize the value of in-person meetings. That's why our caucus meets in person all of the time. So when we can, we do, absolutely. But it would not be fair and would not be following the recommendations of the MGT report to put us again in a second-class status.
Senator Townsend has her hand raised.
Hi, thank you. Just from a logistics standpoint, I know that we are meeting by Zoom as an emergency process that expires in August. What logistically needs to happen to continue meeting in Zoom?
Former Speaker Rice has his hand raised, and I think he has the answer we're seeking.
Yes, a year ago, when we decided to do this, it was a motion to meet for the full year on Zoom with the idea that we would monitor how things went, that we would have options for in-person. Thus, we had the breakfast monthly meetings. We had the 2 receptions and did a couple of other workshops so that there would be ample opportunity for those who wanted to have some actual face-to-face time to have it. And so I think to answer Senator Townsend's question, what would happen now is because the motion was for a year, that in August we would need a motion to continue the current practice of being online with other for business meetings with other options for face-to-face, such as receptions or other kinds of meetings that the Senate could have.
Senator Alvarado has his hand raised.
Yes. First of all, Dave Banerjee wanted to talk at one point. Is he back? I'm just curious. I know he raised his hand, but anyway, my bigger point is that I think it's going to be impossible to reach a decision or to reach some kind of agreement on what to do. I'm of the opinion that I like the hybrid option because I want to meet with people face to face. I think that experience is more valuable than meetings through Zoom. Now, let's face it, meetings through Zoom is more convenient. I can just do it from home. I can do it from my car if I want to. It's more convenient, but I think, I do prefer to meet in person. I think that's more valuable, in my opinion. Thank you.
Senator Smith has his hand raised.
Yeah, I just, with respect to what Jorge just said, I think kind of proves the point for the branch campuses with the in-person meetings being like more valuable. Well, that would be something that we're not having access to by definition. I think that's what we're trying to get across over and over. Not to echo everyone else's points, but I just wanted to point that out.
So Speaker Hammond, at this point, it looks like everyone who's wanted to speak has spoken.
Excellent. Again, this is not the final thing, and if the EC will discuss about what we want to do, but in any case, this will be on the meeting again in August, and we can discuss it and have a vote. Okay, so with no other business on the agenda, I now invite Speaker-elect Price to take us into the Committee of the Whole.
Hello, does anybody have anything they would like to bring to the committee of the whole? And just recall that this is an opportunity to, for any new senators watching, this is an opportunity to bring up issues, concerns that you have. It doesn't mean that they will necessarily be resolved, but usually what will happen is the executive committee will review the contents or information that's brought forth on the committee of the whole and then determine how to move forward if to do so. So, Adam Kolosinski, Senator Kolosinski, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Angie. So I noticed a change in the dean and department head selection rules. This one specifically has to do with the survey. There's an appendix to both rules detailing the survey that has to be sent out to the faculty. Under the old rules, it was required that the numerical results of the survey be disclosed to the faculty. Now the rule bars disclosure of numerical results to the faculty. And I'm just wondering how that's possible legally, because the numerical results of the survey are public information under Texas law. And so it appears that the administration is trying to hinder faculty access to public information. I was just wondering if there's anybody here who could clarify why that's going on.
Thank you. Senator Alvarado.
Sorry, I was trying
Can
to.
we get NK to answer that first? Looks
Yeah,
like
okay, yeah, I wait.
Yeah, so there is no attempt to hinder any information. If you can still exercise FOIA to get that information. It is just that if the faculty choice was A and if the president or the provost choice was B, we don't want to embarrass the candidate. And that was the rationale behind that. But FOIA still holds. So if people
I want to know why you want to make us jump through that hoop.
well, because
you're trying to put barriers on our access to public information.
Well, because the reason is that we discussed this with the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. We had it posted it on the faculty intranet for comments. It was not done in the middle of the night or anything. We went through the whole process, and that's the way it is.
All right, so you wouldn't mind it if somebody set up a public website somewhere and then asked FOIAs for every single survey and posted them and made them available to faculty, right?
In fact, my understanding is that already some people are doing it, not for this particular purpose, for other things.
I have to say this isn't.
So we'll put this on information for the executive committee to review again, Senator Kolosinski, so that we can get some more information and provide that at the August meeting. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Senator Alvarado.
Yes, I would like to know the status of some of the searches going out, taking place across the university, College of Engineering, College of Arts and Sciences. Do we have any updates for those searches?
Yeah, College of Engineering, they're collecting, as you know, that they've opened up the applications to the external candidates. They're collecting applications. And hopefully, as soon as the faculty come back in fall, interviews will start. On the arts and science, Thursday, the composition of the search committee will be announced, and then there will be a meeting to charge the committee. And the other PBFA and the architecture, the searches will be launched in fall.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Taylor.
Thank you. Just as maybe a notice, this came up recently in a meeting between the Ag and Life Sciences Caucus with our college administration, as a consequence of our college facilities being viewed by Dr. Baldoff's office. Apparently, it came up in conversation that for some of our classes where students are having to take class off of the main campus, miles off of the main campus. And while this is probably a majoritively Ag and Life Sciences issue, I'm not aware. Maybe other colleges and other caucuses have similar issues. His office was notified that at times, for the sake of getting students, undergrad students, to these class locations, laboratories in particular, faculty and sometimes graduate TAs were transporting students in their personal vehicles because the undergrad did not have access to their own personal vehicle, or there is no bus route to these locations that is functionally time effective, scheduling effective, what have you. This obviously raised a lot of, shall we say, red flags over liability, transporting undergrads in personal vehicles. The immediate feedback that we were given from our dean and vice chancellor was that Dr. Baldoff's office indicated that course syllabi needed to make explicit when it was appropriate and applicable that undergrads need to either A, find their own transportation, or departmental vehicles could be used for that purpose of getting students to those sites. Now, I don't know about the rest of the departments and I don't know about the rest of the colleges, but I do know in our college, not every department has a departmental vehicle for those types of purposes. And so I just bring this up as a point of note and as a learning from a recent meeting. And of course, if anyone has got any guidance, feedback, suggestions on how to handle this and how to help our undergrads who don't have their own vehicles get to classes that are not on the main campus and are not walkable, as it were, please help us know what to do. I would anticipate that this would, while there is a bus route out to Rellis, there are some labs that don't have any kind of bus service whatsoever. And so obviously that produces a very significant scheduling issue for our students, as well as perhaps a financial one as well. So I'm not necessarily asking what needs to be done, but just to let everybody know that this was something that popped up. And if this does impact you, then help us try to figure out some solutions to help our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that information. Any other senators want to bring anything committee of the whole?
Senator McNeil has her hand raised.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just in light of the benefits presentation, I would just like to challenge our administration to think about what we can do related to being denied prescriptions or prescription coverage. So if we have gone to our physician and we have gone through the hoops that they're required to get a prescription for medications that clearly we need because they've been prescribed, and then we take them to our pharmacies and our pharmacies tell us that our insurance will not cover those prescriptions. And my issue is that how does my insurance know what medication I need or not? And so I think that's a violation of my rights and my FERPA. They don't need to know why I need that medication. I need the medication if it has been prescribed to me. So I think we need to challenge our benefits office, because more frequently than not, our prescriptions are being denied.
Thank you, Senator McNeil. I had the same experience. So apparently my husband's company uses CVS as their prescription provider, and we used Express Scripts, and a medication that I need, not only was it denied, but the pharmacy didn't even let me know. They just called my doctor's office directly and said, prescribe something different because her insurance won't cover it. Didn't even ask me, nor did they file it with my other insurance, by the way. But again, reading the first potential side effect, having that be cancerous, terrifying. It wasn't a medication that I wanted, and I ended up getting this stuff. So, I mean, we really need to look at our benefits. In my opinion, again, is that our benefit quality has gone down, and I'm thrilled that the pricing hasn't gone up, but inflation, it effectively has gone up. Senator Simpson.
Yes, I wanted to follow up on the discussion that was going on previously with regards to transportation. The planning committee had started to address also personal electronic vehicles, and as you know, as you may know, that there's been new policy that's gone out around campus around this. So the committee was under the process of investigating and hearing some of the stakeholders on this matter. As there's safety issues that are surrounding these personal electronic vehicles, PEVs, and as those start being implemented, I expect that there will be further complications so you talked about people don't have modes of transportation or ways of transportation. Well, they have designed them, or they've literally built them in some circumstances, but they're also purchasing them And as those come under more and more restrictions, I think you're going to find more and more scheduling issues. So I see this as an increasing problem moving forward.
Thank you, Senator Simpson. Senator Laporte.
Sorry, can I just pass for a minute, move to Matt?
Sure. Senator Taylor.
Thank you. Senators, I do have to do one thing today on behalf of our caucus. I am very sad, I will say. I have to, but I'm also really, really proud. Today, we are going to be having a last meeting with one of our fellow senators, Dr. Steve Hague from the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, Department of Soil and Crop Science. Dr. Hague is, I'm going to out him a little bit. He is departing A&M for a department head's position at Auburn University. And on behalf of the other caucus members of the College of Ag and Life Sciences, I wanted to say, since we're not going to get to see you again unless you join via live stream with us, and hopefully you will, we're not going to get to see you again. Best wishes to you in Auburn. Congratulations. The members of the caucus have pitched in to purchase a little going away present for you. It's not ready yet, but it will be. And we do hope that you will keep us in mind, keep us in your thoughts and in your memories. And we are certainly very excited for you. And I have to jump off, but I did want to go ahead and take my shot at that, Steve. And so congratulations to you, and we will definitely miss you.
Congratulations, Senator Hague, on your new position. We are going to miss you. It's been awesome working with you. Go ahead, Senator Hague.
Well, I would just like to say it has been a pleasure and an honor working with this group. I have learned so much, and it's made me a better person. And I will treasure the relationships that I've built over through serving with this organization. And I just can't thank Texas A&M enough. Thank you so much.
Congratulations to you. Senator Laporte.
Yes, I just wanted to get my ducks in a row. I was told about something in a faculty meeting in my department a couple of months ago with regards to external employment, and being told that we had to report external employment in Huron, and we were told that we couldn't even work for another educational institution during the 3 months that we weren't being paid. So if you're a 9-month employee, you couldn't work in another educational site in the 3 months that you weren't being paid. And there's several system policies that are floating around right now for revision, or we can't work out whether they're the real thing or they're actually revision. The system policy 31.05, system policy 31.05.1.02, TAMU SAP 15.99.99, and TAMU Rule 31.05.01. And they all seem to point to similar directives in that it's not allowed that a faculty member work at another educational institution in the time that they're not employed at Texas A&M. And I just want to put that on the radar or get some clarification.
Dr. Anna, do you have anything you want to respond to that right now?
I think it comes under Huron and Dr. Baldaff. I don't know whether he's on call, but I can only speculate that it is something to do with the conflict of commitment.
I was, yes, I was actually, I'll drop these things in the chat for everybody who's writing them down. I was actually told it was because Texas A&M employs the best teachers and best professors, and that information should be held within the university. But it doesn't seem particularly fair, especially for people who are only employed for 9 months, as most of the APT faculty are, that they can't, or they're not allowed to work somewhere else to augment their salaries. I'll drop that.
I don't think it's, they want to prevent people working. They want it to be declared and disclosed. That's all. Yeah.
Fair enough. I actually thought that might have been the case, NK. So if that could be clarified, that would be great. If it's just a matter of declaring it in Huron as a potential conflict of interest, that would be great.
Commitment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything at all for committee of the whole? Now is your time to vent.
It's not just vent, Angie, it's say nice things too. Like happy summer, everyone.
Happy summer, everybody. That's right. If there's nothing else for the committee of the whole, I'll return the meeting back to Speaker Hammond.
Thank you, Speaker-elect Price. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a